Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary and today's video is going to be my TBR for the month of February. So every month on my channel, I play a TBR game called Sorry Picks My TBR where I go around the board and get prompts. I always start with 4 books that I will get prompts for, and if I land on a sorry, I will pick a 5th prompt. Sorry, I just realized my dog is under the desk in this room and I did not see him. He was being so quiet. Hello, Murphy. Without further ado, let's just get into the sorry picks this month. Okay. So we're starting where we left off last time, which is over here with Mystery. And let's see what the first card is. Move forward 5. Whoops, come here. It's 500 plus pages. So the first prompt that I landed on was to read a book that is more than 500 pages, and for that I'm going to be reading the 6th book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, which is called Lover Enshrined by J.R. Ward. This is a series of paranormal romances about a group of vampires who are like the warriors of the vampire race, set to protect the race, and so far each of the books has pretty much followed one of the brothers. There are also these creatures called Lessers, which are humans who have sold their souls to become vampire killers, and the Lessers are the #1 enemy of the vampires. So that's like primarily who the Black Dagger Brotherhood is attacking. I believe the 6th book follows the vampire Vicious and his storyline with his romance. I'm not sure entirely who his romance is going to be with, but I do have a sneaking suspicion, and I'm excited to continue in the series. I have mentioned before that I thought the first book was fine. The 2nd and 3rd books I really enjoy. I gave them both 5 stars. I thought they were fantastic. And then the 4th and 5th books I, again, thought were just fine. So I'm gonna read the 6th book. I still wanna continue in the series, but after the 6th book, I might take a break if I'm not like super loving the series anymore. Sorry, so we're adding a book. Move forward 3. Fantasy. The second card that I pulled was a sorry, which means that I am going to be pulling 5 books this round, and the prompt that I ended up landing on was fantasy. And for this, I'm going to be reading The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water. Who is that by? By Zen Cho. And I know this book is short, and I believe it is from the perspective of a rabbit. I don't know much else about what this book is about. I know Kayla from Books and Lala really liked this book when she read it a few years ago, and I am doing several readathons in February, so I thought it'd be nice to get some short books on my TBR, especially because, as you will see, I do have some longer books on my TBR. So I am excited to read this one. Move forward 2. A classic. The next prompt that I landed on was to read a classic, and for this I chose Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I believe the actual book is called like The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Can neither confirm nor deny, but I am excited to read this one. I did originally read this book. It's very short. I originally read it back in like 6th grade, I think, but I don't really remember anything about it except for the obvious, which is that Dr. Jekyll creates this alternate personality thing that happens when I think he screws something up in his lab, and so he starts turning into this other persona called Mr. Hyde. I don't know much else about it than that, and I'm excited to read it. Move forward 5. A book in a series. The next prompt that I landed on was to read a book that is part of a series, and for this, I'm going to be starting a Game of Thrones. Now, I am not sure if I will be able to read this entire book. This copy, minus the appendix, let's see, 800 pages, basically. It's a mass market paperback, and my husband really loves the TV show, and he read, I believe, the 1st book and started the 2nd book, but that's as far as he got. Oh, actually, maybe he only got to this point in the 1st book. I thought he read the whole 1st book, but maybe he didn't. So I'm excited to read this. I have said on this channel many times that I was not planning on picking up Game of Thrones until the series was completed. I'm reneging on that promise, obviously. I'm sick of I own 3 of these books. I'm sick of owning them and not reading them. So this is an epic fantasy. I believe it's medieval Europe inspired. And I think it's about just a bunch of different families who have some sort of claim to this throne trying to get it. I don't really know what this is about. I just know it's an HBO show that when I finish the books that are out, I will probably be watching. So I'm gonna read it. Last pick. move forward 10 or backwards 1. So backwards 1 would be middle grade, and 10 would be sci-fi. I think I'm gonna go with sci-fi. And the final prompt that I landed on for Sorry was sci-fi. And for this, I'm gonna be reading Seasonal Fears by Seanan McGuire, which is a companion follow-up to Middle Game by Seanan McGuire, which is like a fantasy sci-fi thing. The first one follows twins Roger and Dodger, and they have like a bond where they can like communicate with each other even though they're raised separately. And they also were alchemically created, I believe. And so I'm not sure entirely where the series is gonna go. It's been also 4 years since I read the first book, so I'm curious to see how I feel about the second. I know that they don't follow the same characters, but I believe Roger and Dodger are in this one as like side characters or make an appearance of some kind. So it's been years since this book came out. I did read Over the Woodward Wall, which is a companion novella series that goes along with these books. I read the first one in that last year, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was fine. So I'm excited to continue in the series, and I hope that I like the second one as much as I loved the first one, because that was, I think, my favorite book of 2020. And that is it for my Sorry Picks My TBR. Now, I am planning on participating in 2 readathons in February. I know. Who is she? We'll see how this goes. The first one is the X's and O's readathon, which I will link the hosts down below. It's primarily like a romance readathon. So there are teams. This year they have 3 teams. They have Team X, Team O, and Team Double Agent. And I have picked a book that goes with all of the reading prompts. It's only 5 days. It's February 1st through February 5th. So I don't know how many of these books I'm going to be able to get through, but I picked a book for each prompt. That way I can just read, and I'm planning on vlogging my experience with this readathon and posting that to YouTube so you can see how I do. Team X's prompts are romantic suspense. So for that, I'm thinking I'm probably going to use the Black Dagger Brotherhood book that I'm reading. That being said, I don't know how much this book would be considered romantic suspense. I will say when I looked at popular romantic suspense books, it did show up, but I don't know if it actually is traditional romantic suspense. So that's what I'm going to use for it, but I don't know how well it fits the prompt. Second prompt is a book with red on the cover, and for this, I'm planning on listening to the audiobook of The Art of Gathering, How We Meet and Why It Matters. I don't remember the person's name, but this is a nonfiction book about how to like set meetings, and also I think it talks about how to get together with like friends and successfully make plans for stuff like that. So this has been on my TBR for a while, and I want to listen to it. Another prompt is to read a book with 2 people on the cover. For this, I'm going to be reading Contempt, a memoir of the Clinton investigation by Ken Starr, which I believe is about an investigation that happened into the Clintons when they were practicing law in Arkansas. It says, 20 years after the Starr report and the Clinton impeachment, former special prosecutor Ken Starr finally shares his definitive account of one of the most divisive periods in American history. So it says, Contempt puts you, the reader, into the shoes of Ken Starr and his team as they tackle the many scandals of that era, from Whitewater to Vince Foster's death to Travelgate to Monica Lewinsky. Starr explains in vivid detail how all of those scandals shared a common thread: the Clintons' contempt for our system of justice. So I'm really curious about this one. A lot of you may know this. I went to college and law school in Arkansas, and the Clintons are like a huge thing there because Bill Clinton is from Hope, Arkansas, and he's very much like Arkansas' son. They also both taught at the University of Arkansas School of Law before going off into politics full time. And Bill Clinton was the con law professor for a semester, which is very funny. He also taught maritime law, which is also very funny because Arkansas is landlocked. But I'm just really interested in this. This is a period of history that I was alive for, but I was a very small child, and so I don't remember any of it. I'm excited to read that one. And as you can see, Bill and Hillary are on the cover, so it's 2 people. Then Team X has a special prompt, which is to roll the dice. And an even number gets you the newest book on your TBR, and an odd number gets you the oldest book on your TBR. Here's the thing. I probably can only do this one if it gets me the oldest book on my TBR, because the oldest book on my TBR is And Now We Have Everything by Megan O'Connell. And this is a memoir of, the subtitle is On Motherhood Before I Was Ready. And I don't know if she was like a teen mom or really what. But again, this book came out in 2018. It was on one of those lists. I added it to my Goodreads TBR, and there it has lived ever since. So I do need to get to this one. I also have the newest book on my TBR is What the River Knows by Isabel Cañas. And I have that on hold from a couple libraries, but I'm not going to buy it for this readathon because it's 5 days. And again, I don't know how many books I'm going to actually get to in 5 days. I just like to have a lot of options. So if I were to roll, what is that? Even, I probably would just skip this prompt. For Team O, the prompts are rom-com, which for this I'm going to read The Key to Happily Ever After by Tiff Marcello. It says, a charming romantic comedy about 3 sisters who are struggling to keep the family wedding planning business afloat, all while trying to write their own happily ever afters in the process. I love a book about sibling relationships, and I thought it'd be fun to put some actual romance on this TBR since it is February, which is the month of love, and also it is a romance readathon, kind of. So that's what I'm reading for that prompt. The second prompt is Pink on the Cover, and for this I'm reading Dog of the North by Elizabeth Mackenzie. I'll read you what it's about. This is like a contemporary book. It says, Penny Rush has problems. Her marriage is over and she's quit her job. Her mother and stepfather went missing in the Australian outback 5 years ago. Her mentally imbalanced father provokes her. Her grandmother, Dr. Pincher, keeps experiments in the refrigerator and something worse in the woodshed. But Penny is a virtuoso at what's possible when all else fails. The Dog of the North follows Penny on her quest for a fresh start. There will be a road trip in an old van with gingham curtains, a piñata, and stiff brakes. There will be injury and peril. There will be a dog named Queecoats and 2 brothers who may share a toupee. There will be questions. Why is a detective investigating her grandmother? And what is the scintillator? And can Penny recognize a good thing when it finally comes her way? So it's supposed to be funny, and also it has those serious undertones. I'm excited to read this one. It does sound like something that I will like, but we'll see. I also think the cover is very cute, and then you can see there's pink on it. The next prompt for Team O is Flowers on the Cover, and for this I'm going to be using The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water by Zen Cho, which again, you can see there's flowers on the cover. I guess I can read you what it's about. This says, a bandit walks into a coffee house and it all goes downhill from there. Gwet Im, a young votary of the Order of the Pure Moon, joins up with an eclectic group of thieves, whether they like it or not, in order to protect a sacred object, and finds herself in a far more complicated situation than she could ever have imagined. So again, this is 176 pages. Should be relatively short. I have the audiobook as well, so I'm gonna be able to get through this in like a couple hours. I can probably get through this while cooking dinner one day, honestly. So I'm excited to read it, and I hope that I enjoy it. I've heard nothing but good things. Okay, and the last prompt for Team O is Second Shelf, 14th book. And for this, I went on Goodreads, I put my TBR. I don't remember what number I used. I kind of cheated because I did this until I found a book that I've been wanting to read. But I went on Goodreads, I picked my shelves, I went on the second shelf, and I picked the 14th book down. And that is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer, which I believe is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I've only read a contemporary by Bridget Kemmerer, but I loved it. I've heard good things about the story. It's called the Curse Breakers Trilogy, and it has 3 like fairy tale retellings. I like fairy tale retellings. I don't know how much I'm gonna love this as a YA fantasy now, but I'm excited to read it. They have a double agent team, and that is for people who want to mix and match prompts. The only extra prompt for double agent is a book with purple on the cover. And for that, I'm going to be reading Holding Pattern by Jenny Shi, which I believe is about a woman in her relationship with her mother. And I think her mother is about to get married. I like familial relationships in books, so I'm excited to read this one. And I think it came out last year. So it is relatively new, which is good. The other readathon that I'm wanting to participate in February is called Jante's Inferno. That runs from February 6th through February 16th, and it's based off of Dante's Inferno and like the 9 levels of hell, circles of hell. And so the way she made it work is each circle, she picked a prompt based off that circle of hell, and you can combine prompts with the next circle, but you can't combine anything with the 9th prompt. I hope that makes sense. Again, this is like 10 days. I don't know if I'm going to be able to read 9 books in 10 days or even 5 books, which I think is the minimum you have to read to complete this readathon, but I'm being ambitious this year. The first prompt is set in winter with snow on the cover, and the second prompt is horror, thriller, dark romance. And for both of those, I'm going to be reading The Shining by Stephen King. Again, this is kind of a long book, okay? This is like 700 pages, but I'm excited to read it. I don't know how quick this will be because I don't know how much I love Stephen King books. We'll see. I think I'm setting myself up to fail this readathon, to be honest, but you'll know why in a minute. The Shining is a horror book set in wintertime in a like not resort town, but it's like a town that has seasonal visitors, and this family is being tasked with watching over this hotel in the off season. So that's what it is. And then the dad is having a downward spiral and going crazy, and the son can see ghosts. Thus, and that's called The Shining, I think. So that's the book. I'm gonna read it, finally. Okay, circle 7 is to read a vampire book or a book with blood on the cover. For this, I'm reading a novella in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series called Father Mine by J.R. Ward. And it comes after the 6th book, so hopefully I will have just finished Lover Enshrined, and I can start Father Mine. I don't know what it's about, but it's only 91 pages. So I'm confident that I can read a 91-page book in 10 days. So circle 6, this one I think I'm cheating, but it's a new release or a hyped book. And then circle 5 is a book with battle, war, or enemies to lovers. I'm gonna use Game of Thrones for this. I think this was really hyped when the show came out, okay? Which was like a decade ago now. I don't know, more than that probably, like 12. I was in high school when the show was coming out. But, okay. It was hyped then. I'm counting it. And there's definitely a lot of war in this book, okay? And I need an excuse to read it, I guess. We'll see. That's why I think I'm setting myself up for failure. Because I've got 2 books that are both over 500 pages on this TBR that I'm supposed to read in 10 days. So we'll see. Circle 3 is a book with food involved. And for this, I'm going to be reading Whiskey in a Teacup, What Growing Up in the South Taught Me About Life, Love, and Baking Biscuits by Reese Witherspoon, which is a memoir that she wrote a while ago. It says baking biscuits, so I'm counting it. Circle 2 is a romance adjacent book, so I'm using that for the same thing because, okay, just bear with me. It says what growing up in the South taught me about life, love, and baking biscuits. So love, I'm counting for romance. I don't know if that's right, okay, but I'm doing it because I can't be bothered to read an extra book. And then the last circle of hell, the one that you can't double up, is just pick a book and get out of hell. So I will pick whatever I pick. I also wanted to mention that I'm trying to do buzzwords each month for February. The buzzwords are happy/positive words. If you don't know what Buzzwordathon is a readathon. Basically, it's like 12 prompts throughout the year, and each month has its own prompt. You can sort of do it whenever you want. It's not a monitored readathon, but it just is supposed to allow you to pick books from your shelves, which is haha funny to me because I never do that, that encompass words, okay? And so this month's words are happy and positive words. So for this, the examples that Kayla gave were like love, happy, sweet, cute, adorable, comfort, precious, etc. So Whiskey in a Teacup does mention love in the subtitle. Black Dagger Brotherhood books usually say lover, so like Lover Enshrined, I'm counting that as a positive, happy word. And I'm also doing, what is it, the Key to Happily Ever After. I feel like Happily Ever After is like a cutesy thing. But yeah, I have several books that I'm gonna consider as fulfilling this prompt, so I'm not gonna do an additional book for it. I hope that makes sense. That's it. How many books are on this DBR? Let me count really quick. I forgot to say something. I'm glad I did that recap. I forgot to mention a book that I'm reading for Jante's Inferno. Jante's Inferno? I don't know how she wants to pronounce. In between Game of Thrones and Whiskey in a Teacup, there's a circle 4 prompt, which says, a book you paid full price for. Now, I did potentially get this for 50% off because it was during the buy one, get one sale at Half Price Books. But, there we go, that came off really easily actually. But I did buy this new. I usually buy my books secondhand. I did buy this new from Barnes & Noble. This is We Came, We Saw, We Left, A Family Gap Year by Charles Whelan. This is on my 24 to read in 2024, along with these 2. So I'm getting some stuff done. And I'm really excited to read this one. So it's about a family who I think they take a year-long sabbatical off work. They rent an RV and they drive around the country for fun. And they wrote about it. And I'm excited to read this because this sounds fascinating to me. But with that, that makes 16 books. That's kind of a lot. We'll see if I can do it. I'm feeling pretty positive, but I'm also very aware that this is a lot of books. So we'll see what I actually get to. That's it. Those are the books that I'm planning on reading in February. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books and how you felt about them. Also, let me know if you are participating in any of the readathons that I mentioned and what you're reading for them. You can just let me know in general what you're planning on reading in February, as I would love to know and talk about it. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you would like to, you can subscribe to my channel because I do post 2 videos every single week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!